The storm outside the broken research facility was loud and endless. Ash and dust flew in the wind, covering everything with a gray film. The planet was dead, no birds, no sky, no sun, just thick clouds and the sound of metal creaking in the cold wind. Jack, a human scavenger, stepped into the ruined hallway. His boots crunched broken glass as his flashlight flickered. His suit hissed quietly, adjusting to the thin air. He had been here for 2 hours, searching for anything valuable. So far, nothing but scrap and rotten panels. Then his scanner beeped. Something with high energy was just ahead. He moved quickly, deeper into the wreckage. A sealed door stood. At the end of the hall, glowing faintly blue. Strange alien warnings were painted across it. Symbols he couldn't read. Still active tech. Jack muttered, wiping dust off the door. He tried the panel, but it sparked and died. So he pulled out his tool and forced the door open with a hiss. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. This room looked different, clean, untouched. In the center stood a glass cage, tall and smooth like ice. Soft lights glowed inside it, and thick cables ran to the floor. His heart skipped a beat when he saw her. A woman floated inside the cage, not human. She had soft violet skin, long silver hair drifting like smoke in the liquid. Her body looked peaceful, like sleeping, but too still. Strange tattoos glowed on her neck and shoulders, markings or warnings. He didn't know. Jack stepped closer, drawn by something he couldn't explain. He checked the console. It was dead, except for a red warning blinking slowly. He tapped the glass lightly. Hello? No answer. Then her eyes slowly opened, bright golden eyes, staring right at him. Her lips moved. Just a whisper. Please. Jack stepped back, his chest tight. She was alive, trapped, and begging. He looked around. Why was she locked in here? This place had been abandoned for years, maybe longer. A sound echoed through the hall behind him. Clank, clank, slow and heavy. Something was moving, something big. Jack turned off his flashlight and crouched, heart racing. A large machine walked past the door, an old alien security drone. Its red eye scanned the hallway but didn't look inside. It moved on, its steps fading into the distance. Jack returned to the cage, breathing fast. She was still watching him, her fingers weakly tapping the glass. She was cold, her skin turning pale. The liquid inside was draining her, not preserving her. He checked the control panel again, still offline, but he found a cable connected to the power core. He pulled it out and rewired it with his portable charger. The console blinked. 2 life alien code rushed across it. Jack didn't understand, but one button glowed green. It had a simple icon, a broken chain. He hesitated. AM. I about to make a huge mistake. But then he looked at her. She wasn't dangerous. She was dying. Jack pressed the button. A loud hiss filled the room, and the liquid began to drain. The cage opened slowly, steam rising from inside. The woman collapsed forward. Jack caught her just in time. She was freezing, shaking, and barely breathing. He wrapped her in his jacket and laid her down. Her eyes fluttered, and she whispered again, "Why? Did you come?" Jack blinked, surprised. "How do you know my language?" But she passed out, unconscious. He looked around. Time was running out. The security drone might come back, or worse. Jack picked her up and began to walk toward the exit. As he left the room, something on the console turned red again. A silent signal blinked across the broken screen. Containment breach subject escaped, activating hunter units. And somewhere, far beneath the planet's surface, a large machine woke from sleep, its eye glowing bright red, tracking the escaped alien and the human who freed her. The cold wind bit at Jack's face as he stumbled through the broken halls with the alien woman in his arms. Her body light but trembling. Her violet skin pale against the rough human jacket wrapped around her. The ruins behind him seemed to groan, as if the building itself knew she was no longer inside the cage, but something worse was coming, something that would not stop. He hadn't made it far before his wrist device buzzed, flashing red. The signal was spreading fast. Every drone nearby had been activated, and they were all coming here. Jack cursed under his breath and ducked behind a fallen support beam. Laying the woman down gently, her breathing was shallow. Her golden eyes opened just for a second, then closed again. She needed warmth and time. And safety, none of which he had right now. Something thudded in the hallway above, slow and mechanical. His eyes scanned for another exit, but the floor plan was ancient. Half of it collapsed during the war. He wasn't supposed to find anything like this, just scrap. Maybe some tech, not a living being. Not someone who called him by name. How did she'll know his name? He never told her, and she was locked in that cage, asleep or something like it. Maybe the glass had kept her mind alive. Maybe it had taught her things. Or maybe someone had sent her a message. One that included him. Jack shook the thoughts away. There was no time for theories, just escape. He pulled out a plasma cutter and blasted through the side door. The heat lit the shadows around him, revealing strange growth on the wall's organic tech. Half dead and pulsing slowly, he didn't like the look of it, but he had no choice. He lifted her again and moved fast. The halls twisted and curved downward, leading to an old cargo dock, at least if the map was right. As he stepped through the next doorway, a sound like metal claws scraping against stone echoed behind him. Jack froze, slowly turned, and saw a dark shape drop from the ceiling. It was one of the hunter units, tall, thin, with jagged legs and a single glowing eye. It scanned the room in silence, its head twitching. Then it let out a mechanical screech and charged. Jack ran, heart pounding. The alien girl stirred in his arms, whispering something he couldn't hear. The hallway shook as the hunter chased them. Faster than anything he'd seen before, he ducked into a side room and slammed the door shut, firing his cutter at the controls, melting them down. The machine slammed into the door, denting the metal, but it held, for now. Jack looked down at the woman, and for the first time, her eyes opened fully. They glowed softly, like light trapped inside amber. She touched his chest weakly and whispered one word. Not in English, but he felt it. Trust. Jack stared at her, confused, then reached for his medkit, spraying warmth gel across her arms and neck. She gasped softly, and her fingers twitched. She was waking up. Slowly, he didn't know what she was, or what they had turned her into. But she wasn't a weapon, not yet, and not to him, then. She looked at the wall and lifted one hand. Just a twitch, but the wall pulsed, the metal shifted, and the locked back door unlatched with a hiss. Jack's eyes widened. You can control the building? He asked, but she didn't reply, just closed her eyes again, exhausted. He carried her through the now open door, stepping into what looked like a shuttle bay. The small escape pods had all been stripped or rusted, but one remained sealed. A red light blinking slowly beside the hatch. Maybe damaged, maybe forgotten, but it was a chance as he approached it. A new warning flashed on his wrist display. Multiple hunters now inbound, one from each sector. Surrounding the structure, trapping them inside, he tried to open the pod, but the lock hissed. Frozen, he growled in frustration, then turned to her. Can you do it again? He asked, her eyes opened slightly, and she lifted her hand toward the pod. But nothing happened. Her energy was fading again. He reached out, touched her hand, and held it in his own. Just once more, he whispered. I saved you, now you save us. For a moment, nothing moved. Then a small flicker of light danced from her fingers, touched the lock, and the hatch snapped open. Jack didn't waste a second. He placed her inside, climbed in after her, and hit the emergency launch. The pod screamed to life, then shot upward. through the debris-filled shaft, shaking violently as it escaped the collapsing building. Below them, dozens of hunter drones poured into the lab, only to find it empty, their target gone, inside the pod. Jack looked at the alien woman lying beside him. Weak, barely breathing, but free. He didn't know her name, didn't know why she was locked away, or why she whispered his name before she ever met him. But something told him this was just the beginning, and whatever she was, they would come. For her again, he looked down at her and whispered, "You're not in a cage anymore." The stars outside the pod glowed bright as they left the dead world behind. But something inside her began to glow too, just beneath her skin. Something ancient, something powerful, something waking up, and it pulsed, in rhythm with his heartbeat. The stars outside the pod flickered through the small window as Jack sat silently, one hand resting gently on the alien woman's arm. Her breathing was slow, too slow, and her skin had started to dim again, the faint glow beneath it fading like a dying ember. The silence in the pod felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. He checked the pod systems. They were barely holding. Autopilot was offline. Life support was weak. And the navigation module kept flashing a single word: unknown. They were drifting, not flying, and time was running out. He leaned his head back, trying to think, trying to plan. But every time he looked at her face, something stopped him. A strange feeling in his chest he didn't understand. She stirred, just a little, her lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyelids fluttered, and then, suddenly, her hand gripped his arm tightly, like she was afraid of falling. Her golden eyes opened again, not confused, but focused, and she looked directly at him, like she had known him forever. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice soft and strange, the accent thick but understandable. He sat up quickly, surprised she was speaking. "You're safe," he said, "at least for now." She looked around the small pod, confusion growing in her eyes. Then, slowly sat up, her movements stiff and shaky. "You broke the glass," she said, almost like a question. "Yes," Jack replied. "You were going to die." She looked at her hands, at the faint glow beneath her skin, then back at him. "You shouldn't have," she said. "They'll come for me." "And now for you." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, I figured that part out." He smiled slightly. Still better than watching someone die behind glass. She studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "I was not just a prisoner," she said slowly. "I was a prototype." Jack frowned. "Prototype for what?" She hesitated, then touched her forehead. "A weapon," she whispered. "One that thinks, feels, and obeys." Her voice cracked at the last word. He didn't reply at first, then said, "Do you feel like a weapon right now?" She shook her head slowly. "No. But I remember everything they did to me to make me one." Her body trembled. Slightly, not from cold, but from memory. "They locked away my mind," she said. "I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I was awake." For years, Jack's jaw tightened, his fists clenched. He had heard of cruel experiments during the alien civil wars, but never imagined someone could survive like this. Never imagined someone would be made to. He reached into a storage unit and pulled out a thermal blanket, wrapping it gently around her shoulders. She flinched at first, but didn't resist. "What's your name?" he asked. Her eyes shifted, like she wasn't sure how to answer. "They called me Subject 17R. She said, "But before the war, I was called Relia." Jack nodded. "Well, Relia, I'm Jack." She looked at him again, more closely this time, and her expression changed slightly. "Your name. I remember it," she whispered, "from the dreams." His heart skipped. "What dreams?" he asked. "I saw you," she said, "not clearly, but your face, your voice. Like you were calling me." Jack didn't know what to say, but his gut twisted. He'd never met her before, yet here she was. Claiming to have seen him, felt him, before ever waking, maybe the mental technology used to suppress her also connected to distant thoughts. Or maybe something deeper had awakened inside her mind. The pod jolted suddenly, systems blinking red. Something was pulling them. Gravity. Maybe a nearby planet or moon. Jack checked the sensors as small. Station, drifting in orbit. Abandoned, but still running minimal power. No life signs, but enough to support landing. "We've got one chance," he said. "Hold on." The pod shook violently as it adjusted course. Scraping through debris, flames licked the sides as it entered thin atmosphere. Alarms screamed, but Jack held the controls steady. Relia reached out and placed her hand over his, her warmth calm and steady. And the pod slowly landed on the cracked metal surface of the station. When the door opened, cold air rushed in. Stale, but breathable. Jack stepped out first, scanning the area. It looked like an old trade outpost, silent, rusted, and forgotten. He helped Relia out, and as her feet touched solid ground, she staggered, then stood straighter than before. Her glow returned, not fully, but enough to light the shadows around her. "This place feels quiet," she said, "like no one has touched it for years." Jack nodded. "Let's keep it that way." But as they stepped deeper into the station, a flicker of light flashed in the corner. Something still watched the entrance, hidden. Waiting, and far above, in deep orbit, a signal pulsed across the stars, relaying one message from an ancient program buried in Relia's body. Subject 17R has awakened, and dozens of dark machines turned toward the signal, their eyes glowing red, engines roaring to life. The hunt had begun again. Smoke drifted through the old outpost's corridors as Jack led Relia deeper inside. His boots echoing against the cold steel floor. The lights above flickered weakly. Powered by an aging reactor that buzzed behind the walls like a dying insect, it was quiet. Too quiet. Like the place had been asleep for a long time and didn't like being disturbed. Relia walked beside him, wrapped in the blanket he gave her, but standing taller now, her movements slower than a human's. More graceful, her golden eyes scanning every corner. "This station is old, but the energy inside it is not," she whispered. "Something here watches." Jack nodded, gripping the handle of his plasma pistol tighter. "Yeah, I feel it too." They passed shattered doors and long-dead control panels. The walls were covered in scorch marks and strange claw-like scratches. "A battle happened here," he muttered. "But whoever fought, they never left." They reached what looked like a command room. Dust covered everything, but the central console still glowed faintly. Jack wiped it off and powered it up with his portable unit. Static filled the screen. Then a distorted voice broke through. "Warning. Subject breach detected. Initiating station purge." Relia's face turned pale. "It's me. The signal in my body. They're tracking me through it." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Can you shut it down?" She shook her head. "Not yet. They buried it deep inside my core. It wakes only when I'm free." He pulled out a scanner and checked the surrounding systems. The station's purge protocol was counting down 15 minutes until full. Atmospheric vent. In other words, they'd be sucked out into space unless they found a way to override it. He growled. "Someone really doesn't want you alive." She looked down, ashamed. "They fear me." "What I can do?" Jack stepped closer, "then show me." Her eyes widened. "What?" "If you're a weapon," he said, "then use it not against me." But to survive, she looked at her hands. The faint glowing lines pulsing slowly beneath her skin, like veins made of light. Her voice trembled. "I was trained to destroy. Fleets with a thought, to rip minds apart, but I never wanted to. I begged them to remove it, but they just locked me in glass." Jack placed his hand gently over hers. Then don't be what they made. Be who you are, Relia. She closed. Her eyes unfocused, the console sparked as energy flowed from her fingertips into the system. Alien code rushed across the screen, and one by one, the purge systems began to shut down, alarms turned off, doors sealed. And the station seemed to breathe again. But then the ceiling above cracked open. Metal bent inward as something large forced its way through. A black hunter unit dropped into the room, taller than the last one, its frame thicker, its eye brighter. It looked directly at Relia and spoke in a deep, mechanical voice. Subject 17R. Terminate. Jack raised his pistol and fired. The blast hit its shoulder, barely making a dent. The hunter lunged, Relia screamed, and the air itself shook. The creature was thrown back into the wall by a burst of invisible energy. Her glow now burned bright gold, lightning dancing around her skin, eyes glowing like suns. The hunter stood again, but slower this time, damaged. Its eye cracked. It aimed a cannon at Jack, but Relia moved faster, stepping between them. The shot fired, but stopped in midair, frozen, shaking in place. She turned her hand, and the shot bent backward, slamming into the hunter's chest, tearing it apart when it hit the ground. Relia collapsed too, gasping, her knees hitting the floor. Jack rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. "I can't hold it for long," she said. "It drains me." Jack looked at her. "That's fine. You held it enough." More signals lit up on his scanner. 3 more hunter units had entered the atmosphere. They didn't have long, but the station was secure for now. Relia looked up at him. "There's a place. A hidden satellite. I remember it from before the cage. A safe zone." Jack nodded. "Then that's where we're going." She gave a faint smile. "You trust me? Even now?" "You saved me," he said. "That's enough." She leaned into him, her forehead against his chest, her voice a whisper. "Then I'll protect you, even if it kills me." Jack carried her to the hangar, where a half-working shuttle rested, hidden under a tarp of old cargo. He'd fix it. Somehow, they had one shot. The stars were full of enemies. But maybe, just maybe, this strange woman in his arms wasn't humanity's threat. She was its last hope, and maybe his too. The old shuttle groaned as its engines came to life, sputtering and coughing out black smoke before finally settling into a shaky hum. Jack worked quickly, fingers dancing across the control panels, bypassing ancient alien code, using human tools to fix things never meant for human hands. Relia sat nearby, wrapped in silence, her head lowered, her breathing calm but weak, outside the cracked window. The sky burned orange as 3 hunter units broke through the atmosphere. Distant black specks with red glowing eyes, descending like angry gods. Jack didn't look away from his work, but he felt the pressure building in his chest every second. Mattered, one wrong wire and this ship would explode on launch. "I can help," Relia said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack turned to her, sweat on his forehead. "You sure?" She nodded, lifting one trembling hand. Energy flickered again at her fingertips. Soft, golden, gentle this time, not violent like before. The control panel responded, clearing corrupted systems and unlocking emergency thrusters. The ship's core rumbled alive. "They taught me how to destroy," she said. "But I learned how to connect too." Jack watched her, something in his chest tightening again. Something he didn't have words for yet. He gave a short nod. "Then let's connect this rust bucket to the stars and get the hell out of here." The hatch doors began to open, metal grinding against itself, revealing the launch pad, cracked and half buried in old debris. Jack strapped Relia into the co-pilot seat, then sat down and tightened his own belt. "Hold on," he muttered. But before he could launch, the station shook violently. A large shape landed hard on the outer platform, one of the hunter units. This one, different, sleeker. Faster, a command variant, its blade arms glinted under the rising light. And it leaped directly onto the shuttle roof, its claws stabbing through the hull. Relia gasped, and the ship's lights dimmed as the creature's energy pulse flowed into the core. "It's draining us," she said. Jack didn't wait. He grabbed his rifle and opened the emergency hatch above, climbing through with a snarl. The hunter was there, crouched like a predator. One glowing eye locked on him. "You really don't like giving up," Jack muttered. The hunter lunged, blades slashing. Jack ducked, rolled, and fired. The shot burned across its side. Not enough to stop it, but enough to make it turn. That was the moment Relia stood up inside the ship, her glow rising again, her hands pressed. Against the interior wall, the ship responded, lights flickering back, weapons powering up. The hunter looked confused, just for a moment, and that was all Jack needed. He aimed, fired again, this time hitting its leg, causing it to stumble. It turned to attack, but Relia's energy surged through the hull, launching a short pulse. Straight through the metal roof and into the creature's core, the hunter screamed. A sound like breaking glass and static, then exploded into shards. Jack dropped back inside the ship, coughing from the smoke. "You okay?" he shouted. Relia nodded, her knees shaking. "It's not over," she whispered. They sent a signal before it died. "More are coming." Jack sat in the pilot's seat again, gripping the controls. "Then we go now." The ship shuddered. As it lifted off the pad, engines roaring as it pushed into the sky. Relia leaned her head back, eyes closed, feeling the shift of gravity as they rose higher and higher, until the fire faded behind them and the silence of space returned. Jack checked the star map, looking for the coordinates she mentioned earlier. That satellite base, how far? She reached out weakly, touching the panel. There. A small dot appeared near the edge of a broken moon. Cloaked, hidden, forgotten. They won't find us there. Not yet. As the shuttle entered orbit, Jack looked back at the planet. Shrinking below, the place where he found her, where she had been buried like a secret, locked in glass and silence, and now she sat beside him, glowing softly. Fragile and powerful all at once. "You saved me," she said quietly. Jack gave a half smile. "You returned the favor." She looked at him, eyes warm and curious. "Why did you really break the cage?" He didn't answer right away. Then said, "Because you looked at me like I was human." Relia didn't reply, just reached across and gently took his hand. Her touch was warm, alive. And her voice came softer than ever. "You were the first thing I saw, after all. The darkness. And I was never afraid, but far beyond them, past the stars and frozen moons." A council of silent watchers stirred as the signal from Subject 17R reached them. A human had touched the forbidden, and were earned its trust. Now they had a new problem, not the weapon they built, but the bond they never expected. The satellite hung in space like a ghost, silent, cloaked, forgotten by time. Once used for long-range communication during the war, now a relic floating beside a fractured moon, its panels cracked, its power barely functional, but it was hidden. And for now, that was enough. The shuttle latched onto its docking ring with a loud hiss. And Jack exhaled in relief, guiding Relia through the narrow tunnel into the station's cold interior. The air inside was thin, but stable. Lights flickered undimly, casting long shadows across the ancient control room. Relia walked slowly, her legs still unsteady, her glow dimmed to a soft pulse beneath her skin. They moved carefully, not speaking much. But something had changed between them. It wasn't just about escape anymore, not just survival. There was a quiet understanding now, a connection. As if the moment they touched in that dying lab had tied them together in some way they both felt but couldn't explain. Relia stood in front of a cracked observation window, looking out at the stars. "I was born on a world that no longer exists," she said softly. "Burned by the same ones who locked me in the glass." Jack leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed. "They saw what you were." "And were afraid," she shook her head. "No, they saw what I could become. And they wanted to control it." She turned to face him, her golden eyes filled with something deeper than pain purpose. "But they never understood that power without choice is just another kind of prison." Jack stepped closer. "You have a choice now?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. But so do you," he frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then reached up and touched his chest, over his heart. "I feel it when I'm close to you." The signal fades. The control weakens. His breath caught. "You're saying I stop it?" She nodded. "You're my anchor. I don't know why, but your presence grounds me, calms the storm inside." Jack gave a short laugh, trying to hide the tension in his voice. "Great, I'm your walking battery charger." She didn't smile, instead stepping closer, her voice serious. "No? You're the only reason I'm not a weapon right now." Jack looked into her eyes, searching for doubt. But there was none. Just clarity, just truth. He swallowed hard. "Then we stay close." Suddenly, the station lights flashed red, and a shrill warning echoed through the old speakers. "Unauthorized signal detected, proximity alert." Jack rushed to the control panel. Bringing up the external feed, 3 ships appeared from hyperspace. Leak. Dark and fast. Not hunters, but worse, enforcers. Sent only when high-value assets go rogue. They didn't capture, they erased. Relia stood still, her hands trembling. "They found me." So fast, Jack backed away from the panel, grabbing his rifle. "Then we fight." She turned to him. "No," her voice soft. "If I fight them, I'll lose control again, and I won't come back from it." He froze. The meaning clear. If she used all of her power now, she wouldn't survive, not as herself, maybe not at all. Jack gritted his teeth. "Then we need another way." She looked around the station, then stepped toward the center of the floor, placing her hand on the metal. "This place still has a core. Maybe I can reach it. Mask us, delay them." Jack nodded. "Do it." She knelt, her eyes closing, her glow brightening again as she connected to the satellite systems. Energy pulsing through the walls, but the strain showed in her face. Her breath sharp, her hands shaking violently. Jack knelt beside her, holding her shoulders. "Relia, stop your burning out." She didn't open her eyes. "I need to focus. Stay with me." Jack held her tightly, his voice steady in her ear. "I'm right here." Her glow shifted, deepened, and the entire satellite shimmered, disappearing from external scanners just as the enforcer ships arrived. Outside, the ships circled slowly, unable to detect the station hidden within the folds of energy Relia created. After several long minutes, they turned and vanished into hyperspace again. Searching elsewhere, inside, Relia collapsed forward, unconscious, her skin cold, her body still glowing faintly. Jack caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her gently. "You did it." "But at what cost?" he whispered. He carried her to the sleeping quarters and laid her down. Brushing her hair away from her face, she didn't stir, but her breathing was steady. Slower now, peaceful. He sat beside her, holding her hand, not letting go. The station was safe, for now, but he knew this was only a pause. They would return, and next time, there would be no running. He looked at her, this woman who had been built as a weapon, trained to destroy, but who chose to save, again and again. Not because she had to, but because someone finally treated her like more than a tool. Jack leaned close and whispered, "You're not alone anymore." And for just a moment, her hand gently squeezed his in return, as if even in sleep she heard him and believed him. The silence in the satellite chamber felt heavier now, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Jack hadn't moved for hours. Still sitting beside Relia as she slept, her body curled gently beneath the thermal blanket, the soft, golden light beneath her skin flickered slowly like a heartbeat, distant but alive outside the window. Space remained still. The enforcer ships gone, but Jack knew they would return, not with 3, but with an armada. The only reason they hadn't already was because Relia had hidden them at the last possible second, and the cost had nearly killed her. Again, Jack rested his forehead against the edge of the bunk. His hand still holding hers, he whispered, "What am I supposed to do, Relia? You're the one with the power. I'm just—" Some idiot scavenger who opened the wrong door. Behind him, a soft voice answered. The right door. Jack turned quickly, finding her awake, eyes half open, lips curved in the smallest smile. She looked tired, like the weight of galaxies rested on her shoulders, but she was still here, still fighting. He sat up straighter, relief washing through him. "You scared the hell out of me." Her voice was faint, but steady. "You stayed?" He nodded. "Of course I did." She looked around the chamber, then toward the window. "They'll return. In greater numbers, more prepared. They will not allow me to exist freely." Jack leaned forward. "Then we stop running." Her eyes met his, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, "standing now. Maybe it's time we stop hiding and show them what freedom really looks like." She sat up, slowly, the glow under her skin brightening. "I can't fight all of them. Not without losing myself again." "You won't be alone this time," Jack replied. "We fight smart, not with rage, not with their weapons, but with something they never expected." She tilted her head. "What's that?" He smiled faintly. "Hope." She blinked, then laughed softly, the sound dry and quiet, but real. "They trained me to kill armies, Jack, not to inspire them." He reached into the storage unit, pulling out a signal beacon. "Then let's train them to see you differently. We call for help not from soldiers, but from people, smugglers, rebels, even those who still remember what the empires did to your kind. You think they'll come?" She asked. "I think," Jack said, activating the beacon, "if they see the truth. They'll come, not to save you but to stand with you." Relia reached out and touched the beacon too, her light merging with the signal, changing its frequency, not just broadcasting coordinates, but emotion, memory, feeling, the pain she had endured, the hope she now held, and the face of the man who had shattered her prison. Far across the galaxy, ships paused mid-flight. Traders looked up from consoles. Forgotten outposts stirred to life. The message was clear, unspoken but undeniable. She's free now, and she's not alone. Days passed. The satellites stayed hidden, but activity grew. Ships slowly began to appear on long-range sensors. Small ones at first, then larger. None of them bore the flags of empires, just markings of lost clans, old families, independent crews. Those with no flags left to wave but fire still burning in their hearts. Relia stood at the window, now dressed in simple gray fabric, her glow brighter than ever. Jack stepped beside her, offering a steaming cup of something warm. "We've got 12 ships now. Maybe more coming." She looked at the stars, her voice calm. "It's not an army." "No," Jack said. "It's better." A sudden alarm beeped once, then twice. The final enforcer fleet had arrived. Cold, unstoppable, they surrounded the outer orbit with purpose, weapons locked, demanding surrender. Relia didn't blink. "They'll fire soon." Jack gripped her hand. "Then give them your answer." She closed her eyes, her body glowing so brightly now the room lit up around her. She sent a message not of war, but of warning, not just to the enemy, but to everyone watching. She projected her memories across space, the cage, the pain, the silence, and finally, Jack's face as he broke the glass. The fleet hesitated, the transmission spreading fast. Uncontrollable, uncontested, Relius light spread from the satellite in waves, disabling weapon systems. Shorting their sensors, but doing no harm, only forcing them to see, and across dozens of enemy ships. Silence fell. Then, one by one, the Enforcer ships turned away. Not because they were defeated, but because they were changed. And somewhere deep inside their command, someone whispered, "She's no longer a weapon." Back inside the station, Jack let out a long breath, staring at Relia like she wasn't just alive, but something more. Something free. She looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "You did this." He stepped closer. "No, we did." This, and for the first time, her smile wasn't small or uncertain, it was wide and full of light, just like the stars behind her, just like the future they would face together, unchained, unafraid, and never again alone.